Welcome back to Golf Xtra. When we think about the greatest golfers of all time, we generally think about players who have made their name on the tournament circuit. However, there are also great golfers who are relatively unknown, and Moe Norman is at the top of the list. He only participated in a major tournament once, and mostly played in his country of Canada. However, his swing is legendary and is the envy of incredible players throughout the world, even those like Tiger Woods. But most golf fans know little about Moe Norman and his one-of-a-kind golf game. Don't worry though, we'll fill you in on all the details here on Golf Xtra. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this one. Now, let's get right into the incredible story of Moe Norman. Moe Norman is originally from Kitchener, Ontario, and was born in 1929. He grew up with modest circumstances, and the shy student struggled in most subjects in school. This, along with his quirky high speech and habit of repeating his words, might have come as a result of a severe sledding accident he had when he was 5 years old. His parents couldn't afford to take him to the hospital, and they say that the results of the accident changed his personality. What it also might have done was to make him into an obsessive golf prodigy. The Canadian learned the game of golf on a local public course, both as a player and a caddy. He obtained a battered old set of clubs and became wholly consumed by the game, frequently practicing until his hands bled. While he didn't improve immediately, he eventually worked out his unconventional swing, later saying that he had mastered his golf swing by age 19. After that, he said, "I knew I could hit a golf ball where I wanted it to go for the rest of my life." Norman showed up to an amateur tournament in Canada in 1949 for his professional debut with no invitation and as an unknown. He blew away the field, even without much experience, shooting 67 for a two-stroke victory. Even once people knew that he was a threat to win, he won back-to-back Canadian Amateur Championships in 1955 and 1956. After that, his tournament-winning ways got even more pronounced, as he won many tournaments throughout Canada. Even with his success on the course, Norman lived most of his life in poverty, working a series of blue-collar jobs such as setting golf pins and stitching rubber boots. Norman's swing was, by all accounts, much different from those of the typical golfer. Norman gripped the club in his palms and took a wide-legged stance before taking the club back to only about shoulder height. Then he would swipe through the ball with a swing that would look more apt for a golfer who was just starting out. Many fans and other golfers felt that Norman's swing was ridiculous, but the results spoke for themselves. Norman was unbelievably accurate with his golf shots, often hitting 20 or more drives into an area that could be covered by a fruit basket. He famously rarely missed fairways or greens and played the game in an incredibly creative way. Some of the iconic stories include when he rolled the ball across a bridge rather than lay up in a round with legend Sam Snead, or when he made a hole-in-one in front of a reporter who was giving him a hard time about his putting. Norman made so many hole-in-ones in his life, in fact, that he reportedly lost count. Because of his unusual swing, though, Norman often found himself as the source of laughter and insults from the fans in the gallery. As shy as he was, this discouraged Norman from playing on larger stages, but he did attempt it. He first turned professional in 1958 and immediately won the first tournament that he played on the Canadian PGA Tour. His success on the Canadian Tour allowed him to also play events on the U.S. Tour. Hindered by the one weak spot in his game, putting, Norman didn't win a tournament during his short stint on the PGA Tour, but did finish in a tie for fourth, the New Orleans event in 1959. This would be the last event that he ever played on the tour, as Moe was unfortunately faced by bullying from some of the big names on the tour. Because of his appearance, quirky demeanor, and unusual behavior on the course, some of the top players had cornered Norman after the New Orleans event and told him that he needed to change things about himself if he wanted to play on that level. This greatly wounded the shy Norman, who later said that it stopped me from having fun. He only rarely returned to play sporadic events, otherwise sticking mainly to the Canadian Tour. Throughout his career, Norman was still often in relative poverty, as he typically stayed in motel rooms, but also sometimes slept in bunkers that surrounded golf courses by choice. Now that's dedication to the game. He would also hitchhike between tournaments with his golf bag and his belongings, making his life in golf one that was far from luxurious. However, his fortunes turned around when he met Chicago golf entrepreneur Ian Kuykendall in the early 1980s. Kuykendall was convinced that Norman's swing represented the perfect golf stroke. As Kuykendall himself said, "Scientifically, what Moe does is perfect. It's what we call an ideal mechanically advantaged golf swing. It is a maximum force with least effort. It's as perfect as a human being can do. Kuykendall's company, Natural Golf, paid Norman a fee for the use of his name and image, as well as inviting him to do several clinics every year. That wasn't all that Kuykendall did, though, as he also connected Norman with the CEO of Titleist at the time, who changed Norman's life for good. Titleist wanted to capture Moe's swing on video, which they did, but they also decided to pay him a $5,000 stipend every month for the rest of his life. The decision shocked Moe, who had never seen that kind of money in his career despite his accomplishments. As Kuykendall tells it, Moe looked kind of funny. He took a step backward and said, "I've played your balls all my life. What do I have to do for that money?" And Mr. Wheeline said, "You don't have to do anything. You've already done it. We just want to thank you for what you've already done." Mr. Wheeline said that Moe was in the same league as Ben Hogan and Bobby Jones, and he deserved the same kind of respect. Moe didn't say anything, just went limp, and he almost went into shock. I thought he was going to pass out. By that time, the hair was standing up on my arms, and all of us who were there were about to cry. Moe and I had to do a clinic right after that, and in the car on the way there, Moe said, "Jack, I don't know if I can hit the ball." After that, Norman largely kept the same lifestyle that he had had before the windfall, living inexpensively out of motel rooms in the back seat of his car. The money provided him with security, something that he hadn't had prior to that point. It allowed him to travel where he wanted and not to have to worry about where he was going to stay, far from what the worry should be for one of golf's greatest and most interesting figures. Moe eventually died in 2004 in his hometown of Kitchener from heart failure, but he leaves a legacy behind of the perfect golf swing and one of the game's greatest what-ifs. That is, could Norman have dominated on the PGA Tour as he did in the Canadian game? It's an interesting question, and one that I think is mainly answered in that Norman was competitive in only a handful of starts on the PGA Tour. He did rack up 55 professional wins in his career in Canada, with a significant number of wins on the amateur circuit mixed in there. So he certainly could have won, but would he have wanted to? Norman evidently viewed golf as something to do for fun. That just so happened to be something that he could make a career out of. Many of the players who have won and won frequently on the PGA Tour, like Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson, both of whom who have spoken favorably about Norman, are famed for their competitive fire, something that Norman just didn't seem to have. There's nothing wrong with that, but it definitely adds an unanswerable component to the question of Moe's chops in the professional game. Either way, the incredible story of Moe Norman is one that will likely never be replicated in history. He was truly one of a kind. So, what do you think about Moe Norman? Do you think he's the best golfer ever? Do you think that he would have won on the PGA Tour had he participated? Be sure to leave us a comment with what you think down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you can watch our latest content updates as soon as they drop. We'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.